Welcome back to this Canvas building video series. I'm going to show you in this video one more type of assignment that's a little more unique and different. We've gone through how to have assignments where students upload things, where students turn in Google documents, where students work within a Google document you've created for them. In this video, I just want to show you how you can get a discussion board going and use that as an assignment. So in case you've never used a discussion board, an online learning management system, I'm just going to show you kind of like completed ones so you can see what we're talking about. Those things show up here. I've got one here in my Canvas course. They show up with this little icon that looks like speech bubbles, and what you would be, the end result would be that you would post a question, your students would respond to your question, and they could even respond to each other just with text, with comments and text. Now, if that's something that you're interested in, that is something that you can add to one of your modules in Canvas. It's actually not listed as an assignment. It's listed separately as a discussion. But let's say, for example, let's build a new one. You've seen what it will look like when it's all done. I'll show you how to set up a new one. Let's say, just for variety, I want to put it here in my second unit. So whatever unit that you would like this to be in. Now notice my second unit is not published, which would be bad. I guess I could publish him now. In this unit that I want to add this to, I will click the plus button to say I want to add something to this unit. And again, this is strange. It's not an assignment. It's actually its own thing called a discussion. And typically when you're creating one, I like to create everything through modules. That's where I go through to kind of as my home base. But when you're creating a new one, you'll say that it doesn't exist, so I want to make a new one. You give it a name, and this name could be anything you want. Then you will add that. Now, I think this is moderately annoying. When you create it, it sits there and it's blank. You have to go back into it once it's created. You want to press your edit, and then here you want to give them some kind of description or directions about what are they discussing. So you could ask them a question. This would be great for sometimes a bell ringer or an exit slip or maybe even homework, but some type of discussion topic. That hopefully is better than that. And you can do all sorts of formatting, make it bold, you can do superscript and subscript, add images, so you could get as crazy as you want to in your directions. Now, you can also attach a file as your directions. These settings are where things get interesting. Typically, if it's a discussion, you would want the students to be able to reply to each other, so you would want threaded replies. So when a student replies to another student, that creates a thread inside of there, and it's indented over so you can see who's replying to what. This is a great setting. Users must post before seeing replies. That way, if they haven't posted, they can't just go look and see what somebody else said and kind of rehash that. So that's a good way to make sure the students are coming up with something original. You probably may or you may or may not want it to be a graded thing where you can go through and give them points based on their replies. So I think a graded assignment or a graded discussion is pretty handy. You could go Facebook and let people like each other's posts. The podcast feed is a really kind of a strange feature in my opinion, because that would allow, basically, if you wanted to create your own podcast, you would post audio into this discussion board, and the students on their podcast app on their phone would be notified that you posted a new episode of your podcast. So you could kind of, if you're into that kind of thing, you could use a discussion board as your own personal podcast. But I don't think that's 90% of the time the way teachers are going to use this tool. But I would say these three settings are my favorite and the ones that you would use most of the time. The group discussion thing, of course, there are so many things Canvas can do for you. Most of the time, I don't feel like teachers will use this setting, but you could allow Canvas to group your students and kind of have teams in your discussion, and that could be a whole nother video about how Canvas deals with groups. You could, since I said it was graded, right, when this was unchecked, I didn't have a points option, but since I say it's a graded assignment, you can say how many points it's worth and all sorts of options for grading. It could be points or percentage or just complete, incomplete. You may also, when you're giving instructions, you may tell students that they need to make a post and reply to 2 other students or something like that. So you could go through and grade, how well they completed those instructions. And of course, you have options to assign to different sections and due date so that they will know when things are to be done. When it's done, don't forget that no one can see it until you publish it. So typically the save and publish is pretty handy to get that both done. Once you have this finished, the students, when they hit this assignment, will see the directions, and the students will have this button that will allow them to reply and make their post. And there's all sorts of filter options where they can only see things they haven't read yet, and that kind of helps facilitate the discussion. But that's the basics of creating your first discussion, and then once that is complete, the students will again click on it, go in and hit the reply, and eventually you'll have something that looks like a nice threaded discussion with your students replying to your original question and to each other. I hope you enjoy creating discussions in your Canvas class.